we have a special guest on our episode, and her name is Nikki Byrd, Napoleon. She is she her bio, her uh she is Dolores Napoleon's daughter. And that's all we need to know. No, but she is a very dear friend of mine, more like a big sister. I grew up watching her. She hails from my hometown of New Orleans, Louisiana, and she's the best. She's amazing. She's a gifted writer, poet, and oh so passionate about anything that she sets her mind to change. And I've seen it with my own eyes. And I just love her. I love her. So we had Bina's big sister, which is my big sister too. And now I'm introducing y'all to another big sister. And this is Nikki Byrd, y'all. Welcome, Nikki Byrd.
Peace and blessings. I'm so excited to be in the rim of such greatness.
Thank you. We just doing our anomalous thing. That's what we're doing. We're just here to bring out everybody's creativity, just so that they can live that, that life that they should be living and live it out loud and confidently, So, this month, July, represents something very, very, very important to the Black community, the minority community as a whole. In May of 2008, the U.S. House of Representatives announced July as B.B. Moore Campbell National Minority Mental Health Awareness Month. That is a whole
nother. Okay.
Let me try that again. So, May 2008, the U.S. House of Representatives announced July as B.B. Moore Campbell National Minority Mental Health Awareness Month. That was better. The resolution was sponsored by Representative Albert Wynn, a Democrat from Maryland, and co-sponsored by a large bipartisan group to achieve two goals. The first goal was to improve access to mental health treatment and services and promote public health awareness of mental illness. Bina, tell us about the second one.
The second one is to name a month as the B.B. Moore Campbell National Minority Mental Health Awareness Month. Got you. You didn't do it right the first time. Public awareness of mental illness and mental illness among minorities. So that drives us right into the topic of the day. July's Minority Mental Health Awareness Month, and we creative ways to cope with mental health illnesses. Our quote for today is, "Once my loved ones accepted the diagnosis, healing began for the entire family, but it took too long. It took years. Can't we as a nation begin to speed up that process? We need a national campaign to destigmatize mental illness, especially one targeted toward African Americans. It's not shameful to have a mental illness. Get treatment. Recovery is possible." The National Alliance on Mental Illness, better known as NAMI, the website is NAMI.org. You can get on there, get involved, get additional information about minority mental health, and get it going. I mean, like it said, it's not, we need to get rid of that stigma. In our community, we always had someone in our family that had some type of mental illness problem, but they just called them special. And you got to look after, you know what I'm saying? You got to look after them, but nobody actually went and tried to get any help for them. And I know my dad is, he was diagnosed as a paranoid schizophrenic. He was also bipolar, and his side of the family, they definitely did not want to accept that diagnosis. And I feel like he would still be here if he had had some type of help on that and not be stigmatized or not feel like it's shameful to seek help for your mental health. I mean, our mind is everything. Whatever our mind thinks is what becomes our reality.
Absolutely. So, Nikki, your thoughts on that quote from B.B. Moore Campbell? It was a mouthful.
It was a mouthful. And just like Bina said, my family has also been touched by mental illness. And if I can just share a little bit about my story and why I'm so passionate about the health and wealth of Black people as a collective is because we as a whole, we always think that we have to be silent about our health and that that's not our top priority. We look good on the outside. We can have the flyest kicks on. We can have the flyest makeup look so beautiful, but we are honestly dying inside. And so it's a serious issue when we continuously ignore that there's a problem and we're constantly sweeping those things under the rug. So just like you, Bina, my father had a mental illness and it stems back from his family. His dad, also had a mental illness. So with that mental illness, it affected my brothers and sisters. I'm one of nine. I'm the oldest sister living now, so six of us living. And we grew up in a severely abusive household. And that's something that a lot of people didn't know about because our house was always beautified. My dad made certain our grass was cut. He made certain that the house was painted. Everything was so beautiful. We looked nice. He sent us to school, in the most beautiful clothes. But my dad was a very abusive individual. And as a child, I recall the police coming to our home several times. And one of the things that I remember is just one police officer in particular said, well, y'all have to be good. Your dad is paying the light bill. Your dad is paying the water bill. I remember my aunt saying, well, your dad has a problem. And I remember my grandmother saying, y'all got to be good because your dad is crazy. So all of that impacted us because no one wanted to address the crazy. No one wanted to address, your dad had a problem. No one wanted to address that your dad had a mental illness. So that resulted in us having broken bones as a child, going to the hospital several times. At the age of 5, my dad, burned me with hot water. And my mom stayed in that relationship, and people always say we don't understand why she did. Is because my dad always said, okay, if you left, then I'm going to kill everyone. So it was more or less, if I stay, I die. If I leave, I die. And so mental illness, has a great effect on us when we don't address it. In the case of sexual abuse, physical abuse. And so when we talk about the ACEs, I'm not sure if anybody like the adverse effects that it have collectively, in the household, is that when we're continuing to be silent about these issues, is that it shrink us little by little. And when the shrinking continues to happen, there goes our heartbeat. There goes the beauty of who we are. There goes our hope for the future. And so we're always in this collective survival mode. And so it's just like, I'm just here. I'm just here. I'm just surviving. I'm just surviving. But we're not showing the beauty of who we really are. And so that's the life that I live. We're living with the father who had mental illness because everyone wants to say it's okay. And being okay and being crazy and having a mental illness is just okay instead of getting psychotherapy, instead of getting the symptoms that we need.
Absolutely. I think you know, our need to appear strong to the world definitely does hinder our community. And um, I think now, though, um, more and more of us are embracing the idea of seeking help and accepting that help. I know for me, uh, for a long time, I refused to take any kind of medication for my depression, and I'm talking years, probably, let me see, 2009 until 2016. I refused medication only because I felt like if I take medication, it's going to make it worse. I'm going to be dependent on this medication. Well, you're dependent um, if you don't take the medication because you're living in that, in my case, depression. Um, and in some ways, you do become dependent on the effects of the depression, if that makes sense. So when I did begin taking medication, of course, there's trial and error because some work for you, some have different effects that you might not like. But when you find that one that works for you, your life changes.
Mm-hmm.
And I can say that I can tell the difference when I am medicated and when I'm not medicated. And Bina can tell you as well. You can definitely tell the difference in
Mm-hmm.
how I interact, how I carry myself, how I handle business and conduct things. It's definitely noticeable.
Yeah. And generational curses are issues that have not been addressed plague us as a people. And when I say that, it's like what Nikki was saying earlier. When we keep stuff in the closet, when we talk of, he crazy, just be good or whatever, then we as people don't know that what they have may affect us one day. So I
Mm-hmm.
don't know what you have. I don't know what my granddad had. I don't know what grandma had. I don't know what this person had. And all of that stuff is passed down. You know what I'm saying? So when I'm acting crazy or I'm feeling, crazy or whatever, however you want to describe it, I don't understand that is something that's already embedded in my DNA.
Mm-hmm.
It's already there. But I don't know this because no one is talking about it. No one is saying, hey, your dad was a paranoid schizophrenic. He was also bipolar, so watch out for that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Nobody is saying that. Nobody is saying, I think she dropped off. Yeah.
Probably hit the thing. You want me to start recording? Oh, there we go. Okay.
I'll cut it.
Okay.
Okay. But what was I saying? Oh, and nobody is saying, when nobody is talking about this, then you don't know that your children might someday show those signs, and you don't understand why they're acting the way they're acting when it's a generational thing, when it's a DNA type thing, when it's a chemical imbalance that can be fixed with medication. But we're so scared for people to know that we are on medication or that we do have some type of issue. So we walk around like we're okay, like you said, like everything on the outside is pretty. We have a pretty house, we wear nice clothes, our kids are look well kept and all that. But on the inside, it's so much turmoil going on because we're fighting against ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We're fighting against ourselves. And I know for me, before I knew that my dad had all of those issues, I get very manic. Tasha can tell you, I get very manic. And when I get manic, I'm bopping around just with all this nervous energy. And what I would do that was detrimental to me is just go out and splurge and buy stuff. And then once I come down off that mania, I'm like, damn, why did I do that? Why did I do that?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so what I had started doing was just going to the Dollar Tree when I feel manic and I want to buy something. Because if I buy 80 things at the Dollar Tree, that's only $80. But if I go to
Right.
the loft and buy 80 things, I'm penniless. You know, um,
You just slapped me, Bina.
I'm just saying. So that's one of the ways that we can. The first thing that we have to do is acknowledge that it's a problem. You can't fix anything that you don't acknowledge,
Mm-hmm.
and that's one of the ways that we can start to move forward. Tasha or Nikki, do y'all have any ideas or thoughts on what we can do moving forward about mental illness in our community as a whole?
I think one of the things that you said was just so very important is that recognizing that we have mental illness and that mental illness is actually real. I'm not sure if I'm 46 years old. So let me share another story that my grandfather had a brother who also had mental illness. And my mother said that she remembered taking care of him. Well, talking to my other cousins, I never knew that he had mental illness. So he would stay in the back room. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's the story in the African American community as well, is that that person who had a mental illness also had a room to themselves. So that was a way to
Mm-hmm.
heal them and shelter them from the world, but also to keep that hidden from everyone else. And
Yeah.
so, like you stated, that we cannot address or actually heal if we're going to keep these issues hidden. And so,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what we're constantly doing, is that the healing process can never take place in our families. It cannot take place in our individual selves, and it cannot take place within a community if we don't recognize that these things happen, and that
Mm-hmm.
it is a part of health. Everything is a part of our health, and it starts with our mind, and we have to make it palatable that going to see a doctor, going to see a therapist. It's okay to go and do that. It's okay for
Mhm.
us to make certain that we are taken care of. It's okay to make certain that our well-being is taken care of, because we get this body, and this body that we have is a body that we should love, that we should nurture, that we should nourish, and that we should pour into. So our mental health is so important. And so it
Mhm.
interacts with how we interact with the world, how we interact with everyone else in the world. And so that first step is addressing it. And once we begin to address it, what are those next steps that we do? And that is, if I need to see a doctor. It's
Mhm.
okay. It's okay. And we have to begin to make certain that we share our stories, and do so in an authentic and a transparent way, that
Mhm.
people are able to understand, well, I'm not alone. For me, I have one sister passed away, and just dealing with her diagnosis of dying from complication of AIDS. And then when my other sister passed away suddenly, and that was a day after my birthday, it was just too much. So I totally broke. And it was more or less like, I'm the oldest sister now. I can't believe that this is happening. And honestly, it put me in a downward spiral, because I began to remember all these things in my childhood, not good things, but just the bad things. And I began to
Mhm.
question God, like, as in, why all these things are kind of happening to me? Why is all these things happening to my family? And so it just made me feel like, okay, I have these children, I have these loving children, but honestly, I no longer want to be here. Am I important enough to be here? Um, are my children safe with me? And so I begin to question those things about who I am. And so that's why I begin to encourage people that to say that therapy is important. And when I begin
Mhm.
to recognize that in myself, saying, look, I don't want to be here, I'm going to be honest and say poetry and writing kept me living, because I begin to write about the pain, like every day, write about my sister dying of HIV, writing about my sister, dying suddenly of an aneurysm, and being a black woman, her going to the doctor, and the doctor is telling her, oh, nothing's wrong with you, they're not doing any CAT scan, but guess what, she goes home and died. And a simple fix, them just doing an ultrasound and making certain that she was taken care of, she could have been here today. So all of those things are so important. And so we have to look at the breaking in everything, the breaking. And so we look at things, and we from just like one tunnel visual, because we feel like I'm alone in this. And then I begin to share with one of my good friends, and I so love her to pieces, because I remember about a month ago doing situation dealing with Floyd. I said, I don't want to fight for black men. And she's like, I'm coming over. And I said, really, I can't. I said, dealing with my dad with the physical abuse, dealing with sexual abuse, dealing with dudes who just have been just unloving, and just while I have been the person that's been loving, I cannot pour into black men when I'm just tired. And then she came over and said, she's like, I'm coming over. I'm like, no, no, no. And she knocked on my door, and I cried in her arms. I'm serious. And that's what mental health support is about, is saying, I'm going to stand with you, I'm going to walk with you. And so we have to look at those wins. And when we think about creativity is just saying, I'm going to stand with my sister, I'm going to stand with my brother in their need of breaking. And that's all it takes sometimes.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Like you hit like so many things in your responses now. Like, you know, the creative ways that you coped, and that was in your writing, in your poetry. For me, my coping method, I read, I write. Shopping used to be one of them, but I'm doing much better because Aunt Taylor at Loft is not going to have all my money. Um,
Mhm.
but one of the other ways was crafting for me and painting. So one day I was like, okay, I want some bedroom decor, and I don't really want to pay anybody for it. So we had done a whole bunch of those, paint nights and paint.
Mhm.
And Bina and I never follow the rules. We never do. what it is exactly they want us to do. It's always different. It's never, ours always looks different. So um, the first thing that I did on my own, and y'all can see behind me,
And it's
it,
purple.
and it started out as just a one-sided outline, and that the heavy side, and I just kind of kept going. But that painting was just supposed to be the background. It was never supposed to include the woman.
Mm,
um, so
I told her she can sell that. That's beautiful.
yes.
thank you. Um, and so then, it just became a thing. So now I keep canvas in the house, and I have an array of paints, and I started sketching, and never ever did I consider myself any type of artist. I have cousins that do that, not me. But just to be able to find an outlet,
Mm-hmm.
you know, has definitely been helpful to me when I get into those dark places. Um, and also having a safe zone. So
Mm,
when I get into my dark places, I definitely experience that seclusion. I do. Um,
mm,
that is something that I do. I shut everybody out, shut everybody off. I have a friend that calls it OCD, but that stands for only child syndrome.
mm-hmm.
Only child, OCS, excuse me, only child syndrome. I'm not an only child, but I grew up for the most part by myself because my brother is 8 years older than me. So those two things, uh, it's like a yin and a yang. Like I'm comfortable by myself, but then there are
Mm-hmm.
times the dark place where it's not that I'm comfortable by myself. It's because I'm sinking.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it's very important to be able to recognize when you are getting to those places as well.
Mm-hmm.
And be able to have that safe zone, that person you can call at 3 o'clock in the morning when you in tears and don't know why you crying.
Mm-hmm.
Or you thinking about, do I want to be here in the next hour? And if I don't, how I'm going to do this? Like, it's real. And it's a constant battle for those of us that suffer. And you see, like you say, you can look so beautiful on the outside, and we see it all the time, especially with celebrities. And like, I didn't realize that that person was dealing with that or hurting,
Right.
so bad inside. But that is something that so many people have their opinions on,
Right.
um, but you don't know until you experience it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's very hard for you to tell someone, oh, this is because you want to please this person and because you want to live this way for others. Not so. It's a chemical thing. It's
Mm-hmm.
in you, and that's why it's always that constant internal battle with yourself. Um, so I I know Bina is she's like the ultimate creator. And I know that she pours um, a lot of anything that she's dealing with into her business and all that she does. So, what else can we do? I think we mentioned. I don't want to say exposing, but it is exposing those things that we do deal with, instead of hiding those things, so that
Right.
seeing and knowing that mental health exists in our community is on full display,
Mm-hmm.
so that we can become accepting. Like people used to hide people with physical disabilities, but
Mm-hmm.
now because we've, allowed those people to be who they are out in the open,
Mm-hmm.
it's a norm because they are human. They are part of this society and they should not be made to feel, like they have to hide. So instead of keeping our family members in the back room, I think a sense of normalcy for them, like what's going on outside of their room, can
Mm-hmm.
help, even out that playing field. So we got to stop hiding those things.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Um, so that it does become, okay, hey, this person suffers with this, and this is
Right.
how we need to handle the situation, or this is how we need to deal with that person on their level, so that, we can get to a place where these people are not isolated, or people don't feel like they have to um, portray this sense of I'm okay, and not seek the help that they need. We are seeing an increase of those services being advertised as well, and I do love that.
Yeah. And I've seen a rise over the years in mental health awareness, especially in our community now. It's always going to be somebody that's going to judge, period. We can't stop that. But I have, like, what I love to see is the first thing that we got to do is talk about it. We got to talk about it. You
Like
know
we
what
do
I'm
it
saying? Right. We got to talk about it. And some part of you got to not care about being judged, because somebody's going to judge you no matter what you do. No matter what you say, somebody's going to judge you. And the best thing that you can do for yourself is be authentic. Stand in your dopeness, whatever that means, and be loud with it. Because I know for me, like, I'm a life coach. I'm going to get my degree in psychology. I'll never know what I want to be in life. This might change, but today I'm going to school for psychology. And so, with my life coaching thing, like, I really went back and forth about it. I talk to my husband about it all the time. I went back and forth, like, should I be me on my social media as far as my life coaching goes? Because I'm a very, like, straightforward, straight shooter. This is how it is type person.
Mhm.
And I battle, like, should I be myself on social media? Should I just post all these, like, nice quotes and da 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 da, or should I be myself because I don't want to put people off? And then I thought about, like, you got to be who you are. Your people are your people. And so when you are who you are, the people that, like I said, are your people are going to gravitate to you. They're going to be your support system. Like Tasha, she isolates herself all the time. I text her for 2 days, she ain't text me back. She better be glad that I live in Florida and she in Texas, because I would have been at her house knocking on the door. I used to do that all the time in Virginia, because she used to do it, when we were in Virginia. If she don't answer me, I'm going over her house. And like I told her, like, I know when you get in those situations, but at least tell me that you are okay. You gotta have somebody that you can talk to, somebody that you can go to when you're going down into that empty place. I mean,
Mm.
because I suffer from a lot of illnesses, and it stopped me from being able to do a lot of things that I want to do. And I got severely depressed, so depressed that I, contemplated and then try to commit suicide. And it isn't, and the stigma with suicide is people say that it's selfish, but it's the person that's doing that is not doing it to be selfish. They feel like they're a burden on everybody else, and that everybody else's life would be better if they were not around. And I think that's another thing that we have to do, change our thinking about why we feel like people do certain things. It's not what you think it is. You think that they're being selfish, or they're a quitter, but they're doing that because they care about the people around them, and they don't want the people around them to witness that battle that they're going through. And you got to have a safe place, like you said, Tasha, a safe zone, a safe person. Like you said, your when you get low like that, you got to have somebody that, even if you say, yeah, I'm okay, they know you're not okay, and they're gonna come and give you a hug so you can cry on their shoulder, or come over there and make you get up off the chaise, and do what you got to do. I mean, it's just, but like I said, I see a lot more men being open about how they feel. And that stigma with our
Mm.
men is big. Our men and our boys are, taught from a young age that they got to be hard. They can't have feelings. Suck it up. Hold it in. Be a man.
Mhm.
I'm really grateful and really happy to see that men are opening up, and men are, doing yoga and talking about how things affect them. And because as a whole, as as African Americans or people of color, whatever, we are taught that we got to be strong no matter what. Don't falter. You got to be strong. and that's not human. That's not being a human. People
Mhm.
already look at us like we aren't human, like we're superhumans, and we don't feel the way everybody else feels. And we have to show them that yes, we are human beings. We are strong as a people, but we have feelings, we have emotions, and that doesn't make us angry. That doesn't make us a threat. That's just us expressing feelings, just like anybody else.
Right.
And
Gosh.
that's the beauty in who we are as a people. I believe that
Mm-hmm.
we are resilient and we are strong, but I think that we have to also tear down those walls of that. We have to always be strong because we are soft and we are loving. And in our
Yep.
state of being soft and loving, we have to utilize those skills and those techniques to ensure that we are pouring that type of healthy loving into our
Mm-hmm.
soul. And when
Mm-hmm.
we're not doing that, we're also harming ourselves. And
Oh
like you
yeah.
stated, there are so many people who I know who have experienced so many ACEs, and that includes if you have experienced any of those things during childhood, like your mother was a substance abuse addict, and you had to go without being fed, if you were neglected, if you were physically or sexually abused, those trauma feed into your collective life,
Mm-hmm.
and even though people say the past is the past, that is so untrue because every day you relive those stories. And so
Mm-hmm.
it's just a matter of you taking it day by day and saying, like, I'm going to walk today in the beauty of who I am, and
Mm-hmm.
and try to forget those things, but those things will forever be your keeper. And
Right.
so with that, like you stated about Black men, um, I taught for 2 years, and one of the most heartbreaking things for me is that as a writer, I wrote for so many young people who killed, who were murdered, or who committed suicide. And so many people didn't understand that. And even having those discussions with my students and with teachers who were just like, "Oh, that was the weak cop out." And I remember challenging one of the white teachers who, I'm gonna be honest with y'all, I hated this dude. I really want to beat the really, like I was here. It's like he came with this facade, like, I'm so privileged. Like, I don't understand. I've never, and I'm like, if you've never experienced what this child had experienced, the child
Mm-hmm.
mother, had committed suicide. The child had, his dad was incarcerated. He was
Mm-hmm.
living with his grandmother. His grandmother had passed away, and so he just, you can see it like at school, and like, I'm just here, I'm just here, I'm just here. And then I remember getting a call on a Sunday stating that he killed himself. And it was amazing to me because honestly, I did not think that he was going to be here. I didn't think that it would have been that soon. But that young man, even though he was going to therapy, it did not help because that support system, which was his grandmother, he
Mm-hmm.
felt that that was all he had, and he had nothing else left in him to hold him together. And so all of those pieces in him, when it started breaking away, he was totally broken. He didn't know how to fix that. And
Right.
so no one understood, like, why he committed suicide. But being that person who I can say, my sister, when, I broke when she passed away, the other sister, I broke when she passed away, and so those breaking points, it really gets under your skin. And no
Mm-hmm.
one understands that. And when it gets under your skin, you have to deal with that. And if you don't deal with that or whatever, you begin to start harming yourself. And honestly, you begin to have those things, all of those voices start speaking into your head, and they begin to say, I'm not good enough. You don't matter. You don't belong here. And so all of those voices got the best of him. And we have to recognize that our voices and our loving voices, sometimes will soothe people. And sometimes, even if it doesn't, we know that we have done our best to ensure that we have aided in assisting our loved ones, whether it's our friends, girlfriends, boyfriends, whomever. We have been that support system for our children instead of turning them away. Because I'm gonna tell you, those love and those hugs, all of that matter. And if I
Mm-hmm.
always say you are a true friend, you're not the friend that's going to come in and intentionally be that friend that's going to break that person even more. You're going to find ways, look, how can I love on you more? And so I think that we have to be intentional about that. If we're saying that we want to heal our community, we have to be a part of that healing community. And I'm going to say this. My grandmother was not only, I always say she was a spiritual leader. My grandmother always called that she was a badass woman, badass spiritual woman. And when I tell you she went down on her knees and when she prayed with us, I felt that love. And that was my maternal grandmother because my paternal grandmother was not loving towards us. And so I remember that dark side of her, but I also remember the light inside my grandmother. And my grandmother's, one of her favorite songs was This Little Light of Mine, I'm Gonna Let It Shine. So I would always hear her humming that song, and no, she didn't have like this beautiful melodic voice like my mother, because my mother had this strong, powerful voice. But my grandmother would always hum that song. So for me, that's one of the things that cultivate me and that helps to keep me living. Always my poetry. But I'm telling you, when it comes to those times that is dark, even with like when you say what's a creative way, I'm telling you, that song is something I play constantly. If I'm taking a shower, my children will tell you that. My grandma, my grand love knows this song now. So when I'm in that place of darkness or whatever, that's me, calling on my ancestor grandmother saying, girl, I need you. I need you, girl, right now. You know what? And that kind of brings me peace just with that song, This Little Light of Mine.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And another thing that we have to do when we interact with people, we have to realize that the way they are acting has nothing to do with us. It's everything to do with them. Like you said, your paternal grandmother wasn't loving. That could have been a factor in why your dad was the way he was.
Mm-hmm.
That stuff is passed down. So when we're interacting with people and we think they got an attitude problem or they're quick to be angry or whatever, it has nothing to do with us, but we take it personally because they're talking to us or it's coming towards us, but it's really not even about us. I had to really like start taking my medicine when I saw that I was constantly yelling at my boys. Like I would always be yelling at them. And I see a change in them since I've, taken my medicine properly, doing yoga, life coaching, getting those skills that I need to be able to just sit and talk to them as opposed to yelling at them. I want to know what's going on with them. How did this make them feel? Giving them coping mechanisms when something goes on with them that they aren't sure why they feel the way they feel. We have to stop taking everything personally and start, like you said, going to people with love. Now it ain't easy because I don't be having time for some people. I ain't even gonna lie.
It's okay. You ain't got to kiss
So
me to do that.
I know. So I
You
but
ain't got to do that.
I hope that my friends can see how much I've grown in the last few years. Uh, you know, um, a, a lot of things. My leadership style, the way I deal with my friend. Now I will cuss them out. Tasha, I just cussed her out yesterday. It's in love.
Mm-hmm.
You
In
ain't
love.
had to tell the world you cussed me out yesterday. I mean, I'm just
Mm-hmm.
saying. No, it's good. Because I'll probably cuss back in a minute.
Yeah. One of the best things that we can do is stop using our perception of people. I just told my son yesterday, and this kind of off subject, but it's on subject. He said that a person wasn't intelligent because of the way they talk, like they didn't speak proper English or whatever people consider proper English. And I said the way someone looks and the way someone talks has nothing to do with their intellect. And in order for you to know what type of person they are, you have to actually have a conversation with them and get to know them. We constantly judge people about what we see on the outside, and we need to stop doing that. Because if you sit down and talk to somebody and you get to know them, you can understand why they do certain things, why they say certain things, and then you start being able to deal with people on a different level, on a higher vibration. You vibrate higher than you know, and then you can understand people. Because I know for me, like I said, I've been through a lot in my past, and people, when I even have a conversation with me, and have a perception of the type of person that I am. Never had a conversation with me. And so I take that experience with me and make sure that I try not to be so judgmental towards other people. Now I'm gonna have my opinion when I first meet you, but I take the time to actually talk to you and get to know you to have an informed opinion about how I feel about you as a person. All of this goes into mental health because how you treat people is a reflection of you, not a reflection of that person.
Mhm.
So that's all I gotta think.
So
Tasha.
with that, Nikki,
Yes, my girl.
we're gonna open the floor and let you vibe for us for a moment in whatever way that you feel at this moment. We just gonna sit back and listen to your voice. Bless us.
Mhm. Let's see. So I woke up this good, great magnolia morning, tasted the peanut butter morning sun. You see, today I needed to have a little talk with my grandmama. And I called her over for a cup of minty tea, and she said, "Girl, child, everything is going to be all right." And she pulled me into the bosoms of her arm and she loved me down like she loved my grandfather down. You see, my grandmama, she was all that. She was spiritually bad. She was a badass, yellow bone, red bone woman. You see, her prayers was always the prayers that delivered me. You see, so I am here today because she is my God. She is my sister. She is my daughter. She is my granddaughter. And so, whenever I need good loving, it is her voice that always soothes me. She hums to me in the midnight when I need some love. So, my grandma is always a little light that shines in my soul. She blesses me with her joy. She touches me with her pen, and I am grateful. I am grateful to be here in the now. I am grateful to be dancing over the waterfalls because you see, my grandmama, she is bad to the bone. And if you ever knew the baddest woman alive, she is the black woman. She is melanated. She is queen. She is God. She is empress. She is you, my sister. And she damn sure is me. In peace.
Wait, let me snap my fingers. Snap, 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 snap.
I love you. I
I
love you.
love you. So I
That
freestyled
was
that one for
that was
her.
awesome. Awesome, awesome.
I love you. Oh my gosh.
That was
So I get to, you know, I follow a lot of people. I don't say a lot, but everything this woman writes on her Facebook page, I'm like, yo, I am all in. It's so colorful.
Oh,
It's so it's always filled with, like, I get all of my senses are always um stimulated. That's the word I'm looking for. Stimulated. Like, if I read her writing, every one of my senses are stimulated. And there's metaphors, there's similes. Like, it's just,
and it
you know,
permeates your soul. Like I was so
yes.
into like I was like, come on, girl. Come on, girl. Yeah. It was good. It like permeated my soul. I started lifting up out of the chair. You ain't see it, but it happened.
oh, that warms me.
That is awesome. Oh gosh. I needed that. I needed that. It's been a rough couple of weeks. So I needed that. And I guess I'm gonna have to get back to my little humming. I'm gonna have to hum me a little light of mine.
It's
Mm.
healing.
It is. It
And let
is.
me say this, I don't know if we have enough time, but there are some things in my childhood that hood that I remember that was so loving. And I'm not sure if you remember this, Tasha, but and I had shared this with your mom years ago. Um she did something for my sister and I that she didn't even recognize. So when we were young, she used to come and get us. And I don't know if you remember that. And so one of the things that she did, like all of the children had the World's Fair was in town. And so she took me, my sister Yolanda, you, and I don't even remember who the other young lady was. But your mom used to pour into the little girls who needed it. And I was saying that that was something I didn't know that she knew that we had needed because we didn't used to go places. So to just go to the World's Fair and to experience that as a Black child, when a lot of kids say, oh, well, we never, we saw the World's Fair, but we didn't have opportunity to go in because that's for rich white people. But that was something that was so joyful to me that
Yeah.
I remember. And so that's also something that was like a healing balm for me because I wrote about that in one of my stories about how women, we don't know how we heal one another and how we become healing balms for the children in our community. And I'm going to say this young woman's name. Her name is Lazita. In our community, she was the young woman who braided the little girl's hair, and we made certain that we were cute. And one of the other young girls told me one day, she said, my mom was a drug head, so she didn't comb my hair. So when Lazita combed my hair, I felt so pretty, I felt beautiful. That was something that she didn't know. That's a healing bomb. And
Mhm.
so I want us to start recognizing too is that we are doing the work. We don't know that we're doing the work. So we may not have all these A, B, C, D, behind our names, PhD, all that. We may not have that behind our names, but we are actually doing the work in our community.
Mhm.
Um, and so we have become that. And I want us to continue to be that for us.
Absolutely.
That was good. Yeah.
Absolutely.
All
Okay.
right.
So I just kind of want to go back to that quote again, um, and just read it for emphasis because I think it embodies everything that we absolutely discussed on this call today. But once my loved ones accepted the diagnosis, healing began for the entire family. But it took too long. It took years. Can't we, as a nation, begin to speed up that process? We need a national campaign to destigmatize mental illness, especially one targeted toward African Americans. It's not shameful to have a mental illness. Get treatment, y'all. Recovery is possible.
Yep. Yep.
Wow.
Recovery is possible. All right.
All
We're
right,
not,
ladies.
we're not gonna keep the anomalies any longer. We will be on here forever. We want to thank Nikki for coming on and permeating our soul with her greatness.
No, thank you.
As always, Tasha May, I love you, love you.
I love y'all too, beautiful ladies. Thank
Um,
you, Nikki.
And I appreciate this space and I love this space. And I speak blessings, divine, just rising, because this is something that we need, especially with doing this mental health piece. This is something that we have to talk about. So I'm happy that you guys open up with this. You guys are awesome. You're badass too. Just do what you need to do, sister. Just do it.
Thank you, love.
I love
Thank
you.
you. So you'll be back. Don't worry about it. You'll be
yeah,
back.
yeah,
We'll see you again. The
Oh,
anomalies will see Miss Nikki again.
yeah.
Definitely. So, all right then, y'all. Have a wonderful day. Anomalies, enjoy the rest of July. Do something creative with yourself.
Yep.
Uh,
And anomalies, if you want to see our faces and see our expressions, because we always have the best expressions, catch us on YouTube. Just search Anomalous Black Women. And if you want to hear us on a podcast, we're everywhere: Apple, Spotify, Google. Catch us. Thank you guys for listening. We'll talk to you
hey,
later.
hey.
thank you.